Good afternoon and welcome to the Texas Oncology Foundation Survive and Thrive webinar series. My name is Kelly Condon. I am the program coordinator here at the Texas Oncology Foundation, and we are so thankful that you all have joined today's presentation. We are happy to have Anne Fry with us today, and she's going to be leading our discussion on cancer in the workplace. Just to give you a little bit of background info about our foundation, the Texas Oncology Foundation exists to providing support to cancer patients in the communities where they live, work, and receive treatment. Survive and Thrive programming is just one of those ways that we are active in communities, providing both resources and support to all that are involved in the cancer journey. We also want to thank Texas Oncology for their continuous support and partnership, not only in these webinars, but also in our symposiums throughout the state. Before we begin, I want to go through some housekeeping tips for you. If you experience any trouble, just such as your windows disappearing or slides may not be advancing, most of the time simply closing and reopening the webinar window will fix that issue for you. If you experience issues with your audio, the best solution is to call into the webinar and listen over the phone. To do this, look on your control panel under the audio section, and there is a call button where you can select phone call, and when you click this, a phone number will appear for you to use. Throughout the presentation, there will be a few poll questions, and when a poll question shows up on your screen, you simply select your answer. The presentation will continue after the answers have been submitted. So we're going to take a moment and practice this. We just want to know who is on this call with us. So I'm going to launch the question and you'll see it pop up on your screen. And so let us know, are you a survivor, a caregiver, a healthcare provider, possibly a healthcare provider and a survivor, or are you another category altogether? Awesome. It looks like we have a lot of survivors on the call today and some healthcare professionals. So we are thrilled to have you all. And thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, and I already see people are using our questions tab, I love that. Your questions tab is also located on your control panel at any time throughout this presentation. If you have questions for our presenter, Anne Fry, please type them in. If you have comments that you want to share, type those in too. We love to hear feedback from you throughout the presentation. Please know that we are going to go and answer all those questions at the end of the presentation. So again, feel free to utilize the questions tool throughout the presentation, and then know that we will answer and respond to all of those at the end. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded and the online archive will be available for viewing after the live version. The recording will be sent to everyone in a follow-up email, and then it will also be available on our TXOF website. So you can go to texasoncologyfoundation.org, and then along the top, you'll see our programs tab, and then there will be the Survive and Thrive webinar archive that you can see on the left, and all of our presentations are available there for you. Like I mentioned, we are very excited to have Anne Fry with us today, presenting on cancer in the workplace. She is an executive coach, a trainer, and a former psychotherapist. She is a cancer survivor herself, has been a caregiver and a healthcare administrator. And it is this 360 perspective that has led her to expand the programming of her workplace training and coaching to bring awareness of the cancer journey and other serious illnesses into the workplace environment. So Anne, thank you for taking the time to share with us today, and I am gonna hand it over to you.
Kelly, thank you so very much. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely, you sound great.
All right, great. That's really, really great. So we're gonna just jump right in here. I'm gonna start advancing these slides. Uh-oh, wait a minute. I think I just have to move that. Hang on just a second. Okay, now. All right, so this is all about cancer in the workplace. And the reality is this is a very important topic to me because just about everybody I know, unless they're very young children or much older adults, just about everybody who experiences cancer goes to work. There are not that many of us that stay home and don't work anymore. So this is all about that. And what we're going to look at and cover are some of these things. It's really important as we go through this list to just give you a general idea of the discussion points. And like I said, like Kelly said, if you have questions during, then let us know. And otherwise, I'll be answering questions at the end of the presentation. You'll probably be tired of hearing my voice by then, so it'll give me a chance to take a little breather, hear your questions, and then talk again. So we're going to look at a little bit of statistics about cancer in the workplace and how it impacts you if you're a survivor or a family member, and also how it impacts the workplace in general. We are going to look at the question, why should the workplace care? How does it impact the workplace when you come to work, not just in terms of the statistics of financial concern, but how does it actually impact others in the workplace? What is your experience if you are a cancer patient or going through cancer or survivor? What does you, the employee, need when you go to work from the people that you work with? How should management and coworkers approach and communicate with the worker? That's a tricky question. We'll be talking about that as well. And then we'll have some final thoughts and comments. And you're going to have slides all along the way. So if you have a pad of paper and you want to write a question down to yourself, or you want to take some notes, feel free to do that. So there's some important words about work. The first one is a great quote from Studs Terkel, who wrote a book called Working many, many years ago. He said, work is about a search for daily meaning as well as daily bread, for recognition as well as cash. And what that says to me is that people go to work, oftentimes, of course, because they have to make money. And there are not very many, stay-at-home moms these days. It's much more about both members of a family going to work. And so work is about a search for daily meaning. If we find work that is exciting to us and that we like, then it's like having food. It's like being fed. And so it's about the search for daily meaning as well as daily bread, and for recognition as well as cash. And just let that sink in a little bit. Most of us, if we're lucky, get to go to work and do things that we love. And then here, because I'm an old psychotherapist by training, Sigmund Freud once said, work has a greater effect than any other technique of binding the individual more closely to reality. If somebody stays home and they don't go to work, or even if they don't stay home but they don't go to work, and they are busy and they serve on committees and they have friends and all of that, reality tests us when we are using our skills and we are feeling appreciated and much, much more. So work is an important part of our lives. A few notions about that. Everyone's illness experience is different. And by the way, in just a few moments, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my story so you know where I'm coming from. But everyone's illness is different. No one expects to get it. Nobody wants to get cancer. It's a huge part of the population now, very unfortunately. It's almost like if you drink soda, you get cancer. It's scary, but nobody wants to get it or expects to get it, even if it's in their family. No one knows how to handle it. I don't care how many other people you've been with that have had it, or if you've even had it again, you never know how to handle it because it's always going to be different. Even if you're a healthcare provider, and, unfortunately, if you were to be someone who got cancer, you would not even know how to handle your own because every case is different. And caregivers, even if they've seen it before, or they've been, even if they've been so before as caregivers, they don't know how to deal with a new experience. Even relapses create that not knowing. And it's important to know that because comparisons can get us in trouble. So here are a couple of statistics. 1 in 3 women get cancer, and 1 in 2 men get cancer. If you do the math, that's about 40% of the population. And approximately 14 million Americans have a history of cancer. 14 million. the annual cost of the lost productivity that happens in the workplace due to cancer is $124 billion. This was from a special edition of Time magazine about 2 years ago that was completely dedicated to cancer. And as I was putting the slides together, I had this information, but could not find the magazine, so I do not have the year for you, but it's very, very recent. And it's probably even higher now. So why is this important to me? The picture that you're looking at here now is me, Anne Fry, before. So before I got cancer, and I'll give you just, I don't want to take very much time, but I want to give you a little context here. I was living in Austin, Texas. I'd gotten divorced. 3 years after my divorce, I picked up at age 60, because I'm 73 now, I picked up at age 60 and I moved to New York City just because I wanted to, just for a dream. I worked for myself. I do leadership coaching. I work with people in the workplace who might have cancer, but I do workplace coaching and helping them create a great culture. This is what I look like. I was also speaking around the country. My life was good. I was very successful. And wham, in 2009, after moving to New York in 2006, I went for my annual checkup. My doctor said, Anne, I feel something on your breast. It was way, 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 almost to the armpit on the side of my breast. I felt it. She said, go get a mammogram. I said, I just had one. She said, I don't care. Go get a mammogram. Went and got a mammogram. They said, we don't see anything. I'm like, great. It's probably just a little cystic cyst. And then they sent me over for a ultrasound. And the ultrasound, while they were doing that, she said, I can't find it. And I said, great, then we're safe. And she said, well, let's make sure. Let me call the radiologist in here and have her check it out. She came in. She said, where is it? I put my hand on it. And she said, oh, my goodness, there it is. And it's big. It's like, oh, thank you. And she rubbed it and she rubbed it. Long story short, by the next day, I had the diagnosis, stage 2 breast cancer, lobular breast cancer, not ductal, which is a little bit trickier and has a greater tendency to return. So for me, that's how I used to look. I don't look like that now. You're going to see in a moment what I look like. In fact, let's go there right now. This is how I look now. I have beautiful white hair. It's short. It's cut off because I wanted to get both my hair and my heart, my hands on my heart in that photo. But that's how I wear it. It's a little chic. It's kind of interesting, but it's not my old frosted hair. Now, the reality of comedy here is that when I had that previous haircut, I was gray, but I would color it brown and then I'd have it frosted, and it was a big deal, and it was really, really expensive in New York. So when I lost that and was bald for a while, I saved a lot of money. And then when I let it grow out, all I have to do now is get little haircuts, and I don't have to worry about all those color jobs. And you know what? I've come to really like it. I think I like it better. And this is my new normal, and it's where I am. I am now, this is 2019. I had cancer in 2019. In August, or rather September, I will have my 10-year anniversary, and am pretty excited, to mark that time period, and we'll probably do some celebrating. So that's just a little bit for you to know about me. So if you think it's not important to work, let's get back to that conversation. Think again. It's really important to work. Think about all the things that you realize are going on for you when you go to work. It's not just about making money. Even when we need the money, it's not just about making money. It's also being able to find a way to keep ourselves active, to keep ourselves lively, to get up and go, to have a place to go, to be around other people. Some of us even have best friends at work, to have a position that we feel good about, and that perhaps we have the ability to move into other positions. And maybe, depending on the work that you do, it's very fulfilling. My work is very fulfilling, helping companies create an environment where people love going to work, and working with those managers to turn them into leaders, and then coaching people in that kind of space. And speaking, I love it and feel very fulfilled. So when you think about work, even if you don't love it, Think about the things that are there for you that you do like. Concerns for the workplace. Let me say that again. The word engagement. Engagement. Engagement is getting people involved. Engagement is keeping people happy at work. Engagement is keeping them working. And so if I were showing this slide to a company, which I sometimes do, I say to them, take care of your employees so they can take care of your customers. All you have to do is realize that that's common sense. If you keep your employees engaged, feeling fruitful, great. If you find ways to make them miserable and not cooperate and help them, that's another story. It's not rocket science, it's just common sense. Here's some possible scenarios about cancer in the workplace. People talking at the water cooler about a coworker and they don't know what to say. So maybe they're talking at the water cooler, we don't really have too many water coolers anymore, or the coffee station, and they maybe have heard that you or someone in your world has cancer, and they see you and they don't know what to say, and oftentimes they turn around and they go the other direction because they're feeling awkward. They're feeling like they don't know what to do. Number two, the CEO tells you, as her executive vice president, that she has cancer and she'll need you to take over. Wham, you're not even the cancer person. You all of a sudden have to take over for the CEO or for your manager or for someone, because cancer can come on like at the snap of a finger. Another scenario, a young physician in a burgeoning company discovers that his child has a life-threatening illness. He has a company that he's developing care for patients, whatever, and his child has a life-threatening illness. What is that going to do to the development of his company, to his time, to his mood, to his attitude, to his ability to function? It's not always that you're the one with cancer. Someone you love has it, and that impacts your workplace. Or your significant other is diagnosed with cancer or some other serious illness. So let's broaden beyond cancer to serious illness, just to give you a perspective. Because some of you, if you're like me, you might have other illnesses. As a result of my having cancer, within 2 years after my treatment, going through treatment, chemotherapy, radiation, all that, a second surgery because they needed to get bigger margins, all of that. And within 2 years, I developed an autoimmune disease called Sjogren's, which is a disease of dryness, dry eyes, dry mouth, dry nose, dry everything, if you can imagine. And that's that is an autoimmune disease. And then 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which I live with every day, that zaps my energy and all of that. I don't go into a workplace, I work for myself. That's not good news. I have to work anyhow, be on the computer, be in touch, drumming up business, taking care of my billing, working with my clientele. But serious illness can sometimes come as a result of cancer, and it broadens the spectrum. So what is it? It's something that doesn't heal or go away quickly. It has a specific diagnosis and carries the threat of death or disability or chronicity. Will most likely have an impact on a person's ability to work to full capacity, and most likely requires a need for treatment and or medication. So here's a few more statistics relevant to that. Multiple sclerosis, about 350,000 people in the US. Kidney failure, 4.4 million. And then we have heart disease, mental illness. Those are huge. I don't have the most current stats. There's autoimmune diseases like I just talked about, including things like rheumatoid arthritis, 2.1 million, fibromyalgia, which I have 3% of the population, Sjogren's, which I have 1% of the population. It's a lot of people. So what does this tell us about major serious illness? And why should any of us care? Most of us get sick and we go to work, and because it's the right thing. So why should you care? Because it's the right thing. Think about that in a moment. Why should you care? It's the right thing. And here's a wonderful quote. Company executives want to do the right thing, but it's also in their company's best interest. They know that the way the employer responds is a signal to everyone as to the culture of that company. And that was written by the president and CEO of a business group on health. Her name is Helen Darling. Just read that again for a second. It's really important. What does it cost your workplace? From absenteeism due to illness to the cost of disability and workers' comp, to poor health costs the U.S. economy. Let me say it again. From absenteeism due to illness to the cost of disability and workers' comp, poor health costs of the U.S. economy, more than $500 billion a year. Poor health costs the U.S. economy more than $500 billion a year, according to a new study by a nonprofit research organization called the Integrated Benefits Institute, as reported in Forbes magazine. Furthermore, of that amount, 39% or $227 billion is from lost productivity from employee absenteeism due to illness, or what researchers called presenteeism. You are present, you report to work, but the illness keeps you from performing at your best. And that's the tip of the iceberg. So how does it impact work? Again, and then we're going to start getting into you. Absenteeism, lack of productivity, lower team involvement, use of more flex time or working from home, the need for physical accommodations, personal phone calls, medical appointments, healthcare costs. I know when I was going through treatment and I was going through radiation, I had to go every day to radiation, Monday through Friday for 7 weeks. It's a good thing I worked for myself because I was living in New York City, had to rely on public transportation. They wouldn't let me go on subways because of my fragility. They didn't want me exposed to the germs on closed-in subways. I could only go in buses or cabs. So it would take me an hour to go across town, have my treatment, come back another hour. So I was gone every day for 2.5 to 3 hours. What if I had been working? That would have been a huge impact. Physical manifestations. If you or someone you love has cancer, you know that there is sometimes disfigurement or disabilities related to that. You might have lost your hair during treatment. I did. You might have heavy-duty side effects from what's going on and how you feel. You might have responses to what you experience surgically. You might have a treatment regimen that takes your time, like I just talked about, and of course the hair loss and pain. So we're going to shift now into exploring the actual aspects of this training to look at, why is it that we go to work and what are the concerns and all of that. So here's our first big question. Should you tell? And I think we have a survey for this. Should we tell our bosses? Should we tell our HR person? Should we tell our coworkers? Or no, I don't want to tell, I'm afraid. So 75% of you said, yes, I should tell my boss. That's really great. Should I tell HR? 0. And should I tell my coworkers? 25%. Thank you so much for doing that. So let's talk about that for a minute. We're actually going to move into, We're actually going to move into patient experience, but before we do, let me just talk about that a little bit since we're not interacting. The choice to tell your boss, here's one of my things when I'm trying to encourage a company to be concerned about the people who are coming to work with illness. I will say to them, oftentimes a person will come into work and they'll go up to their boss in the morning and shut the door and say, I have something to tell you. A very sad, unfortunate thing has happened. I've been diagnosed with stage 3, fill in the blank, or my child or my spouse or my parent. And your boss says, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry to hear that. Hey, we'll do everything we can to help you. Let me know what you need. And why don't you go talk to Susie Q in HR and she will tell you exactly what your benefits are. Well, that's a wonderful thing to say, but it doesn't quite do it because you want your boss to really be there for you. You want to be able to say, I want to be able to keep you in the loop of what's happening. Or maybe you just want to tell your boss so he or she knows, and you just say, I just want you to know, and I'll tell you is I won't share very much of it with you. That will be up to you. If you go to HR, you find out all of your rights and responsibilities as to who should know, who shouldn't, and that's up to you to decide. And I don't talk about the HR side of that. I sometimes share teaching with an HR professional that fills that in. So there's probably not too much risk in telling your boss. And I think it's great because it gets you an opportunity to be understood and to have someone, especially if you have a good, a good relationship, who will, understand why you're missing some work and helping to make accommodations for you. So let's move on from there. We're going to look at the patient experience. These are pictures of me. That's me with my little flattened out hair on the left for my first chemotherapy treatment. And I was told that I would start losing my hair. Let's see, I went every 3 weeks. I was told that on the 18th or 19th day after my first chemotherapy, my hair would start coming out. And being as vain as I am, remember I showed you how I liked my hair. I called over my son's best friend, who's an actor in New York City, because he said, whenever you're ready, I will come and shave your head. So he came and shaved my head, and we actually made a big deal about it. We put Pretty Woman on the jam box. Back then I had a jam box, and let it play. My son was living in Austin, Texas. I was in New York. He came in through Skype, and he watched the whole deal. One of my girlfriends was sitting with me, holding my hand. I think I said that. And somebody brought in pizza for afterwards. We made it a good experience of something that was really scary. So what does the patient go through? The first things we think about is, will I live? Can I work? How will I support myself? How will I support my family? What will this illness do to me? What will people think? And who's really there for me? Those are very viable thoughts. I know I went through every single one of them, especially being self-employed with no regular income coming in, no ability for a while to get on planes and fly places to do presentations. I lost a lot of business and didn't know how it would come back. And what does it feel like when you are the patient? You have a lot of fear, a lot of apprehension, sadness, maybe even depression. Later on, we talk about despair, anxiety, uncertainty, shame, grief. If you've never been through it before, you don't know what to expect. I know that my younger brother got cancer when he was 26 years of age. At that time, I had just had a child. My child was I don't know. No, I was pregnant. We had Thanksgiving together. My brother found a little lump under his arm. We got him to a doctor very early. The next day, this was in Illinois, he flew back to Atlanta where he lived. My mother went with him. They went to a doctor. Short story is he had malignant melanoma. This was a swollen gland in his armpit. They never found the primary source. He had a little bit of treatment. It didn't respond. And that was Thanksgiving when we found it. And he died before the next Thanksgiving. He was 27 years old. I was not there to take care of him. I was in touch over the phone. We went to visit him at one point so that we could say our goodbyes. It was horrible for me to go through that because he was quite a bit younger and I used to take a lot of care of him. And he was not yet married, didn't have a family. And thank heavens my mom she brought him back to Florida where she lived and she took care of him. But everything that I felt for him before as a loving sister was also relevant when all of a sudden it's me. And I understood better then what it was like for him. So this is what it was like for my loved one. What's wrong and how did I get this? How will we pay for it? What will others think about this? Is their life going to be over? How can I be supportive at home while still doing everything expected at work? And why is this happening? We didn't identify anybody on the call at the beginning of this class as a caretaker, but perhaps you have been at another time. But when you think about that, you have all the same kinds of anxiety issues that your loved one has. A lot of uncertainty. Yep. And it's ongoing. It's going to keep being there and keep being there. You feel lost, whether you're the patient or whether you're the caretaker or whether you're a friend. You feel lost, confused, unsure, unclear, perplexed, disoriented, and bewildered. And all of that on top of the other things like fear and apprehension, sad, anxious, uncertain, as we say, shame, et cetera, et cetera. So you go to work, and what do you need from your manager? Remember, I gave you that little scenario that you can walk in and say something to your manager, and he or she is a little uncomfortable, maybe not knowing what to say back to you, and says, go talk to so-and-so and, in HR, and they can help you. But what you really need from that person, because they're the person you report to, is you need empathy and genuineness and understanding and compassion and optimism and flexibility, generosity. And we could probably go on and on to know they really are concerned about your well-being, confidentiality, inquiry into your situation. You want to have people to ask about, you need to, they want to ask you how you are financially and how your family is and how it's going medically. And you get to choose about what you talk about or not, unless you don't tell your manager, and nobody at work knows that you're going through this, except you're using your work benefits for that person, for that purpose. So you also need to have a connection to resources. So you might want to think again, if you're a person who is experiencing cancer, might I want to tell HR so that I find out what my rights are? And there might be things that are available to me that I don't know. Like most companies have employee assistance programs where you can get a little bit of counseling. That might be helpful. Or there might be other things, short leaves or whatever might be important to you. So while you're battling with illness, you really are dealing with all these questions about who's there for you. Sorry, I'm drinking some water, but like I said, I have this disease of dryness. All right, so most importantly, after all this about what you need from your manager, more and more, you also need a sense of humor. Not necessarily from your manager, but in general, a sense of humor. Sense of humor will get you through anything. Like I said, when I was having my head shaved, we were blasting Pretty Woman on the, on the music box. My friend was holding my hands. We were laughing. I couldn't see what he was doing. I could just feel him, shaving my head. I'm trying to sing along. I'm crying a little bit, and I'm watching my kid's face, and I'm trying to get him to laugh so that I would laugh to make it a more pleasant experience. So you want people to laugh with you. You want them to hang out with you when you can't work or even when you need a visit. You let them take you to funny movies or play games with you or watch comedies together. This is great for coworkers who feel connected to you, and it's obviously really great for family members, significant others, partners, children, grandchildren, parents, whoever. Let them help you look at the upside. Here's a little humor. When John was shaving my head, he stopped about halfway through and he left a little mohawk for me. And that was the only time he let me look at myself in the mirror so that I could see myself with the mohawk. And as you can see, it put a smile on my face and kind of wiped away the tears. So humor makes a difficult situation fun. So tap into it whenever you can. Maybe we'll do another whole class on humor at some point. What do you need from your coworkers? You need a sense of normalcy, a desire to help and pitch in, telephone calls or visits when you're out of work, an ear to listen when you're ready, and offers to help outside of work when appropriate. And most of all, you need a lot of hope. You always want to be saying to yourself, I'm going to kick this. I'll tell you what I did on the very first morning after my diagnosis. The diagnosis is never easy to hear. My doctor, I called the radiologist's office because she said to check in the next day, and she answered the phone and she said, didn't your gynecologist call you? She said she has to be the one to talk to you. And I knew in that moment that meant it was a positive diagnosis. Within minutes, my gynecologist calls me and she said, Ann, I'm sorry to say, but you have breast cancer. And I had a friend coming over for dinner that night. We had a lovely time. It was distracting. I went to sleep. I got up in the morning. I sat up in my bed. I put my feet on the ground. And all of a sudden, I said to myself, oh my God, I have cancer. And I started to cry. And I remember putting my face in my hands and crying a little bit. And then I said, stop. And I wiped my eyes and I said, I declare that this disease is not going to kill me. Let's get on with it. And I got out of bed. I went into the bathroom. I washed my face. I went and made some breakfast and I got on the call and I called for some, suggestions for surgeons. I called my gynecologist. She gave me some ideas, and for an oncologist, and I got going, and I met that doctor and I got started on the process, and I never looked back. And to this day, approaching 10 years, I still say that my breast cancer is not going to kill me. Now, I could get another kind. I could get it again. It doesn't mean it's going to kill me. And I declare that all the time. And even though lobular breast cancer has a greater return, I'm feeling really great. So what you don't need from people is indifference, fear, being impersonal, prejudice and insensitivity, inquiries when you're not ready, and avoidance or shunning. When people avoid you or shun you, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with their discomfort about, oh my goodness, that could happen to me. Or it has to do with, I don't know what to say to them. This is there's something online where you can look up synonyms for words. And this is what I printed out about surviving. We use the word cancer survivor. I don't really like that term. We'll move on in a minute. But if you look at some of the words there, surviving, holding up, living on, holding out, enduring, coming through, succumbing. I don't like those words. I would rather talk about myself as a thriver. I'm thriving. I'm booming. I'm roaring. I'm prosperous. I'm prospering. I'm palmy. I don't know what that means. I'm flourishing. I'm having a good life. And I do not often let my physical health stop me from doing things that I want to do. So I call myself, I am a thriver. And I invite you to do that as well. Survive or thrive. So here's a question. Think about this, and you can talk about this later at the end of the call when we go into some discussion or questions. But where are you? Are you surviving or are you thriving? Are you getting out every day? Are you doing what you love to do? Are you enjoying whatever you can? So, and if not, what can you do to be more in the thriver column than the survivor column? So now let's see. We want to look at what companies can provide for you. They can provide things like communications, training, people like me that will come in and train their management teams on things like, what they need to know, some of the things that we just went over, where people in the workplace can learn how to be with people that are experiencing cancer or other illness. They can provide sensitivity people so that people better understand that. They can do management training, as I just said. They can do lunch and learn events for coworkers and coaching for the patient. Let Kelly know or let me know if your company has any needs like that, and we can try and accommodate that. But think to yourself, why would it be important for your company to perhaps take the time to, have lunch and learns and teach you more about how to be better co-workers and how to be managers and deal with someone who's, is dealing with a lot of these illnesses. And some things that you might do for yourself. Breathe very slowly, and again, cry when you have to, but not for long, and ask for what you need. Meditate, start a gratefulness journal, be good to yourself. And did I mention laugh and smile? And I want to go back about each one of these, and I want to give you some examples. So breathing, and these are things that we all have to do every day as we breathe. Even people who are experiencing some oxygen issues with their lungs and all of that, they breathe. And I'm talking about taking a step towards using breathing as a way to deal with yourself, even at work. If you need to just get away from your desk or wherever you are, step outside, go into the restroom, take a few minutes. And I ask you to try this with me while I'm talking to you on the phone. I ask you to, first of all, take in a really good long breath. And maybe you can hear me. It's like, take it in through your nose, hold it for a count of 3, and then let it go very slowly. And we're going to do this together 4 times. So nobody can see you. Just breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3, and let that breath go. 1, 2, 3. Let's do it again. Breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Hold it and let it go through your mouth. Let's do it again. Breathe in slowly and again. Hold it to 4 and breathe out. And then do it that one last time. Breathe in, count to 4, and then let it go. Breathing is really important, really, really important. Being able to take a deep breath when you're feeling anxious or you're worried or you're scared or you're frustrated or you're angry, to be able to calm yourself in. Breathe in, count to 3 or 4, breathe out, do it 4 times. It should put you into a normal heart rate and a normal sensible place. Another thing you might do is when you have to cry, just cry, but don't cry and sob for a long time. It makes it hard to breathe. You can't catch your breath. It stuffs up your nose. It makes your mascara run if you're a woman. It makes your face all red. At home, if you need to really cry, cry. Otherwise, if you're at work and you need to cry because you're hurting physically, you're scared, whatever's going on, again, go outside if you can, take a little walk, go stand by a tree, connect with nature, go in a bathroom stall if that's your only option. And just calm yourself down with the breathing so that you can get back to doing what you're doing. Another thing is ask for what you need. That's whether you're at work or at home, but at work, ask for what you need. If you need a better chair to sit in that's going to make you more comfortable at your desk, ask for it. If you need cushions to help with that chair, ask for it. If you need to be able to maybe, if you're in an open space or a cubicle, but you need some quiet space sometimes to do part of your work, ask if you can go in some of the little workrooms or private offices that might be available so that you have some protection from everybody walking by you all along. Take time to meditate. I don't do it every day, but most mornings when I get up, I sit up in bed or I sit on a chair with my feet on the floor, and I use a wonderful app on my phone. It's called Insight Timer. Insight, INSIGHT, and then Timer, TIMER. Free to download onto your phone, free app. Lots of free meditations. I listen to a meditation every morning. Sometimes I extend that and continue meditating on my own without words or music. I try to do that every morning to set myself ready for the day before I start work. And like I said, I do work. I work at home, but a lot of times out at networking meetings or visiting people or going to a coffee shop to set up my computer and do some work in another environment. Another important thing to do, start a gratefulness journal. If you're not taking time to think about what you're grateful for, about everything in your life, not just work, but even at work, maybe you have a journal at home and maybe you have one at work. Take time every day, whenever you get a smile on your face because somebody said something funny, or you walk to the break room and somebody says something funny or smiles at you, be grateful for everything and write it down. So on days that are not so good and you're not feeling good or you're not in a good space psychologically, you look at all the things you have in your life to be grateful for. And along those lines, be good to yourself. Do things that make you happy. If you like gardening, go out in the garden. Protect your skin, wear a hat. If you like doing any kinds of artwork or arts and crafts or playing games, or for me, the one thing that I did a lot when I was going through treatment during the really active phases of treatment, and still, is I love to see a good movie on a big movie screen. I can watch a movie in my house, but I stop it and I, go get something to eat and I come back because I can stop it and start it and I sort of lose my train of thought. I like to go to a big movie theater where it's dark, my phone is off, nobody can bother me, and I can be completely pulled into the movie, whether it's a happy, cheerful movie or a sad movie. You get to choose whatever kind of movie you want. And when I lived in New York and was going through this, I would go, even when I was feeling not good, I would go to a movie at least a couple times a week, even by myself, because you don't talk in a movie anyhow. And I came out feeling, I bet, 85% better than when I walked in that place, because I got absorbed into something else. And then did I mention that it's really, 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 really important to laugh and smile? Watch funny movies, go hear music where you find yourself smiling in response to it. If you have children and grandchildren, spend time with them. At work, find a funny book to keep on your desk where you can open it up and get a little laugh, maybe a little joke book, or go into Facebook and look for the funny little pet things where you can see funny cats and funny dogs doing silly things. Find ways, even at work, to find a way to smile and laugh. So we can share a couple of things to do in a moment. I just want to go through the last couple slides, and then we can open it up for some discussion and questions. And be thinking about, some things that you do for yourself, because I'll ask you when we can, to put those out there so that we can see what that's about. Write in your ideas now, write down your ideas, and I'll say them out loud when I see them. Final thoughts. Tips for everyone. Illness is a state of mind. You control how you think about it. It doesn't always feel that way, but I know, because I was born with a worry gene, WORRY. I was born with a worry gene. You can ask anybody who knows me and loves me. I worry about everything. I worry about if the eclipse of the sun is going to cover the sun and it's never going to be sunny again. Silly things. And I worry about everything, what's going to happen. And I'm a planner. But I know that if I don't contain myself and take control of how I think about myself when I'm feeling sick, that it's going to absorb me. So illness is a state of mind. You get to choose how to deal with it. Don't be hampered or stopped by it. The more you allow yourself to stay home and feel bad, of course you stay home for a while. And when you're in treatment, it's a more active time. I can tell you, after chemotherapy, I was exhausted, tired for a year, but I had to rebuild my business. I got up in the mornings, I got dressed, I got on the subway, I went to meetings, I kept busy. I sent out proposals, I sent out newsletters, I blogged, I did everything I can to get myself back in the game, because I needed to do that. Remember that life gets better, even if it feels like it doesn't. Even if, unfortunately, and I say this with great sadness, even if you find yourself with cancer or a major illness that is taking you forward towards the end of your life more quickly than you'd like, life can get better so that you can enjoy whatever amount of time that is. Having lost my younger brother and another brother to cancer a few years later, and losing my parents when I was young, I've been through lots of grief. But even in that grief, you can find ways to look at the upside. Use mantras. You know, mantras are things that we say to ourselves, like, I can handle this. That's in my telephone. Every morning when I wake up, it says, I can handle this, and all is well. And I have an Alexa, one of those little boxes that talks to me. And in the morning, I say, good morning. And she says, good morning, Anne. All is well. Because I programmed her to say that. And it puts me in that space. Focus on what really sustains you. Purpose, family, friends, yourself, beauty, hope. Focus on all that stuff so that you then can get through this adventure. And in the words of Dr. Seuss, congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places, you're off and away. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself any place, any direction you choose. My favorite reading of all time. I hope you enjoy it. It's been my pleasure. Thank you. I am going to minimize this screen so that I can get back onto the control deck, if I can. And then I think I can get back onto the control panel here and open it. There you go. And then I can see if you have any questions or want to chat with me.
Yeah. Hey, Anne, it's Kelly.
Hi.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I just want to encourage all of y'all, just like she's been saying, if you have any ideas you wanted to share or just comments or questions that you have, please. I know a lot of you have been utilizing that questions tab with some comments, and so please continue to use that. One thing I forgot to mention before Anne started presenting was if you are interested, if you are a hands-on kind of learner, as I am, Anne has provided her slides as a handout, and so go to your handout tab right now and you can download that PDF and take it with you, save it, print it, use it, and then also remember that this is being recorded, and so you'll be able to come back on this presentation and see the slides in the video as well. And then Anne, we just have a few minutes, but I had actually jotted down some questions that came into my head, so if you want to start there, and then if we get more questions and we'll answer them. So one thing that you talked about very early on was how important engagement was in the workplace from an employer standpoint, and what a big key component that was. Unfortunately, not all workplaces have that engagement already established. So if we're coming in with a serious illness that I'm going to need more support from, how can I bring up that conversation in an environment where it's not necessarily already established?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and we could probably spend hours talking about that, but let me you off the top of my head, because that's part of the work that that I push for, is to be able to get in and do some training so that there can be more sensitivity and awareness. I would go, first of all, to when you're dealing with a serious illness like this, I would go, first of all, to whomever I feel I trust the most. It might be a friend that you have at work, and put your heads together and say, who do you think I should talk to about this? They might suggest that they're really connected to someone in HR that would be willing to hear it out. They might suggest that you have the greatest boss on earth, and you go to that person. They might know, or you go to another friend, or you go to just a coworker you trust. You find someone inside that you can talk to. Now, if you're so really afraid to do that, then I would just find out about the employee assistance program contract that your company has, and they would be able to connect you up with a few sessions of counseling, and they might have some further ideas to talk to you about about how to get your needs met at work.
Yeah.
Water here.
I was going to restate real quick that this presentation is being recorded, and so all who registered are going to get a follow-up email tomorrow, and so you will be able to find the link there. And then also, if you go to our TexasOncologyFoundation.org website, we have under our programs tab, you will see the Survive and Thrive webinar archives, and so you'll be able to access the video there starting tomorrow as well. And then kind of a follow-up question to your previous answer.
Yes.
Do you think it's important when I am going in to have that conversation, whether I am the one with the serious illness, or if I'm a caregiver and just need to have the conversation of, you know, my schedule's shifting up, I have other things that need my attention. Is it important to already have an idea of what those needs are, or is it okay to go in at the beginning of the process when you're kind of unsure what you need and just start the conversation?
I would start the conversation at the very beginning. As soon as you know you have something serious or someone you love has something serious and you know that it's going to take a toll on your time and your ability to work effectively, I would go in right then and say, you need to know what's happening, okay? And then most likely whoever you talk to will say, just keep us informed of what you need. A lot more companies now are, they're putting a sofa in the restroom in case somebody needs to go down and lie down for a little while. They're adding healthier options in their cafeterias if they have them. I'm talking about in bigger companies. They are doing what they can to start being more sensitive. And so I wouldn't wait until you have the need. I would set it up in the beginning. I know I'm going to need some accommodations. Can I just let you know as I need them? You might have a time when you're really weak and you need to have a wheelchair in the workplace. So don't wait. Just go as early as you can.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And then, one other question I had. You were talking sometimes within the workplace, there might be just some discomfort with the idea of somebody around you having a serious illness and just not knowing how to talk or engage with them. And I guess as the employee coming in, how do I help bridge that gap for my coworkers? Like, do you have any suggestions that have worked for you or for other people that you know?
So if you're the one who has an illness and you're concerned about making your coworkers feel more or less uncomfortable with it, what I would do is I would tell my boss first, and then I would say to my boss, I would like to maybe have a little meeting of our department, or at the next meeting of our department, I'd like to be able to share briefly with my coworkers. Now it depends on, how large a company it is and how many people we're talking about. If it's a big group and there's 50 people in your unit, well, you're not going to do that. But you might have little small gatherings, and you just say, I just want people to know that this is what's going on, and please don't feel uncomfortable talking to me. I would love it if you have a question, ask me. If I don't want to talk or I'm really upset, I'll say, can we talk about this later? Set the boundaries and say, don't walk away from me. I want you all to help me go through this process. I did a lot of interviewing and wrote a lot of blog posts for how to do that on Huffington Post. If you were to search Anne Fry on Huffington Post, you might still find some of those archived up there. But it's really great when you can sit down. And if you're too uncomfortable to talk to your coworkers initially, you can give your boss permission to say, we want you to know that so-and-so wants you to know that he or she was just diagnosed, or, whatever the situation is. And please don't be afraid to talk to her about it or him about it, but understand that she'll talk as she's ready.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, this has actually come into the close of our time. Thank you for sharing with us today. It was really good to hear from you. And I just appreciate all your insight that you shared.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome. I really appreciate it too. And I hope everybody got some good value from it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all of those that listened in today. I encourage you to stay connected with the foundation. Again, visit our website, texasoncologyfoundation.org, for more resources and information and events that are coming up. And like us and follow us on Facebook. Just so you know, Survive and Thrive symposiums are set in place for this fall. We will be back in Arlington on September 21st. We'll be in Houston on October 12th, and then in Beaumont on November 2nd. And then join us again next month for our webinar presentation on August 8th. We will have Dr. Reagan Street with us discussing fertility options after a cancer treatment. Lastly, as we bring this webinar to a close, a survey will open up on your screen. Please just take a moment and provide us with feedback on today's presentation, and also give us any ideas that you would like to see covered in the future. Again, thank you, Anne, and thank you for all who joined us this afternoon. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you too.